They're actually the greatest beneficiary of AI technology right now. They're the only ones with a business. I think it was like they lost 30%. I mean, they lost 30% or more overnight when this Apple change happened. They were in a really intense business predicament. And so they just said like, well, why don't we take all these GPUs that we were buying, to do other things and point them at ads?
Hello, fellow data nerds. My guest today is Dave Morin. Dave is the co-founder and managing partner of Offline Ventures, a venture fund backed by Apple as the anchor investor. He was also an early employee in Facebook, and then he founded the mobile social network Path. He also co-founded Slow Ventures. Dave, welcome to World of DaaS.
Oh, thanks, Auren. It's so good to be here. Always love talking to you.
Yeah, this is, by the way, been a long time coming. You and I have been longtime friends.
Yeah.
And I have so many questions for you that I'm like, I love the fact that I get to ask them here. So, you kind of helped build the Facebook platform, Connect, in the mid-2000s, which is like 20 years ago now, which is kind of crazy.
So crazy.
Do you think there was ever like a realistic off-ramp from advertising as the dominant business model for these social networks?
It's a very interesting question. I actually was just debating this with my co-founder from Path this morning. And in the watching ChatGPT and OpenAI launch, basically almost the identical thing that we launched for Facebook platform yesterday. It's like, the internet just repeats itself
Totally.
over and over
again. It just keeps rhyming.
Yeah.
And everything, by the way, keeps becoming an ad tech company. Like, it seems like even Uber is an ad tech company nowadays.
I mean, it's a huge business, right? You look at Facebook today, Meta today, it's a $1.7 trillion company as of this morning. They have 75,000 employees.
It's insane.
It's an enormous business. And it's almost entirely an advertising business. There's no other real, driver there. And at the end of the day, a lot of these consumer internet companies are content companies. They, create a marketplace that incentivizes users to create content. And then, it's always been like 70-30, 30% of the users create the content that the other 70 consume. And so you just kind of are in that incentive loop forever. And it's very hard to monetize otherwise. I think that over time, I saw also last week that the EU is starting to, I think there's actually regulatory change over there that's requiring that Facebook offer a subscription version of the product without ads. And I think they pegged the price at $2, or it's like $2.50. I think I think per month is the number.
Like $30 a year.
Yeah. And so like that's what you're worth.
I mean, I pay for YouTube Premium or whatever it is where I don't see the ads. And that's great. Because for me, the ads in a YouTube video, like an interstitial ad in the middle of a YouTube video, is super annoying. I want to watch the video. But the ads that I see on Facebook or Instagram, at least for me personally, is actually like usually really great content that I want to see. So actually I really like the ads, and they do it in a way that it doesn't really
always the
mess
dream,
up
by
the
the way.
experience.
Yeah,
of course.
That was always the dream. I mean, even back in the 2000s when I was working there, that was always the dream. Like Google had this incredible cache machine where people literally just told them what ad to show, right? And so the thing at Facebook was always, can we infer what you're most interested in based on the content that you're looking at and the people that you're connected to, what to show you, right?
Yeah.
And for a long time, it was really difficult to do that by just looking at social graphs and data graphs until I guess it was about 5 or 6 years ago that it looks like what Meta decided was, I think it was largely because Apple made it very difficult for them to discern who users were based on the cookie thing on mobile. They just decided to point GPUs at it. And it turns out GPUs are like incredibly good at predicting the next piece of content you should look at. And
they're really the only one that have done a good job of that. Like when I go to Netflix, I don't see good recommendations at all. When I go to Amazon has history for me for basically 25 years or more of tons of purchases. I don't see any good recommendations at all of things I want to buy. When I go to Spotify, I don't even see good music suggestions of things I want to listen to. So those three companies, which have incredibly talented engineering teams, which have tons of data, all are terrible at recommendations.
I think that they didn't have the forcing function that Meta had.
Because they don't really make money from their recommendations.
Yeah, and
maybe
Meta,
Amazon.
I think it was like they lost 30%. I mean, they lost 30% or more overnight when this Apple change happened.
Yeah,
right.
That's
and
right.
So they were in a really intense business predicament. And so they, necessity is the mother of all invention. And so they just said, like, well, why don't we take all these GPUs that we were buying, to do other things and point them at ads and see if we can actually do better at recommending content and ads to users that way. And we're seeing it work with TikTok. So why wouldn't it work for us? And it works. And it turns out it worked wildly. And you could argue that they're actually the greatest beneficiary of AI technology right now. They're the only ones of the business that
they're the only
AI
ones that are
like
making
just
money
crushing.
From it.
Right. And so I don't know. That's a long and meandering answer to your question.
I still don't understand.
I don't think
why,
it was avoidable. Right.
The ads except for Facebook, I would say ads everywhere are terrible, and they don't show me what I want to see. And in some ways, like, we pay to see ads. Like, we pay. You might pay the interior designer of your house to show you ads of things you need to buy. We pay a real estate agent to show you ads of homes for you to take a look at. Like, we pay people all the time for ads. We're actually often paying for stuff like this. If someone shows you stuff you want, that's like an amazing service. I would actually pay for that service in a weird way, right?
Totally.
They could have like a double-sided marketplace.
It's crazy, but I think that it's like heuristics algorithms prior to GPU based thinking just weren't good enough, right? It was just like building these huge logic trees. It's kind of the same thing that happened with Tesla, right? Where Tesla, I can't remember what the actual number is, but the autopilot code had something like 3 million lines of C code up until version 14, which I think it's been less than 1 year, where version 14, which is fully neural network and GPU based, finally shipped to the car. And the prior version was like, I've driven Teslas now, I don't know, since the beginning of Tesla, however long that's been. And it was kind of like, I'm not sure if I trust it. It feels strange.
Totally.
And now, like, I got home from the airport on Saturday and I put it in autopilot at SFO.
So you went from the San Francisco airport to Morin County. It's a pretty long drive through the city, through all on autopilot.
Didn't touch it.
Fantastic. That's amazing.
Across the Golden Gate, through toll booths, like out of a parking garage. I mean,
out of the parking garage. You did it in the parking garage.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
It's crazy.
I do it on my Tesla all the time, but I don't trust it in the parking garage. I barely even trust myself in the parking garage.
To me, this is the example. This is the difference between Meta's ads and the rest of the internet. They're like ads on autopilot. And everybody else is still writing all of this code to try to predict what you might like. And instead, like, Meta's just like running a neural net and guessing, and they're really, really good at it. And it turns out GPUs are great at this, just like they're great at driving a car and probably going to be great at many other things that we haven't even tried yet. But I think that's largely the answer to your question.
To me, I want somebody to send me serendipitous content that I want to see. That could be something to read. It could be a tweet or a YouTube video to look at. It could be something to buy. I want them to send something like actually that would really benefit from me. Now, this is obviously a really hard problem. Not something like they're getting the most bids or the most amount of money to send me, but the thing actually that I would benefit from, that is a service I would just freaking love. And for whatever reason, again, outside of Meta, no one's really pulled that off.
I think that what you've identified is the edge of AI right now. Like, the reality is, or the non-reality is, that AI just has no understanding at all of the real world. It's very good at taking the text that you've loaded into it and then, zipped up into a gigantic zip file and then put a chat interface on the front of it at predicting what the next word is or the next paragraph or the next whatever, the next pixel. But it doesn't actually have an understanding of the real world at all, which is, by the way, why all of the videos look so strange. Like the thing doesn't understand gravity. It doesn't understand, and so predicting what you might like requires an understanding of you, like of like the internal workings of Auren that these things just don't have. And so there was a great podcast 2 weeks ago by Dorkesh that he talks to one of the godfathers of machine learning, and this is his whole articulation.
This was very good. Yeah,
this was his whole articulation of the problem right now, is that everybody thinks that LLMs are the like panacea, and they're like the building block that we're going to build all the rest of the things on top of. But all of the sort of godfathers of ML are saying like, no, we need actually a totally different type of system that actually understands and can predict a world. It's like not trying to predict a word, it's trying to predict what the world is going to be like that it's operating
obviously,
in next.
There's steps we can take. And even when I go into ChatGPT today, ChatGPT, I told ChatGPT to remember all my dietary preferences and all my family's dietary preferences. So, when I say, hey, I'm in this neighborhood, like pick a restaurant for me, it will say, based on your dietary preferences, I think this might be better for your family, or this one may be one you like, or your kids don't like spicy food, so don't take them there. But when you're by yourself or with your wife, you'll go to the spicy food place. So it does an okay job on some of those things. It's not great, but it's you could see it's way better today than it was a year ago.
Totally. But it's still predicting off base what it knows, right? And what you've told it. So to achieve your grand goal of like, show me something truly useful, truly new, something that I can't even predict myself that I would like we're still not there, and almost nobody's doing it.
I'm not even asking for that. I just want to be like, I just want to get it pushed. Hey, there's this new restaurant that recently opened that's within a few miles of your house, and I'm pretty confident you're going to like this. And I saw your calendar, and I saw that you and your wife didn't have a date night in the last few weeks. So I'm going to book a night for you and your wife to go on Tuesday to this new restaurant together. Is that okay with you? Like, that's not crazy. Like, that's not out of the realm to do, right? That would be like so cool.
Yeah. I think we're probably pretty close to that, actually.
Yeah.
I've seen some pitches for things like in this zone, but they're like, they seem close enough. It's like 2 years ago, everybody was using these photo apps that made you look like a character of Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah.
And today it's like, whoa, there's like video versions of this and it looks pretty good. Like the difference between then and 2 years ago is shocking. It strikes me that the use case you just said is probably like pretty close.
Do you see, okay, so this is what's happening, man. I don't know if you're having the same thing. So obviously the capabilities of AI is getting better and better and better over time. But at the same time, my expectation of what the capability should be is growing even faster. And so there's this gap of what I expect AI to do and what it can do. And it keeps getting wider because I keep trying something out, and then I keep getting frustrated that it's not working, even though what I tried out maybe a year ago was working.
I think maybe one of the things, the practices that I do to inoculate myself from that is that I try to stay really focused on what I'm doing with things right now. Like what's possible, like right now today, like what am I using every single day? And it's a practice that I do because I'm a seed investor. Because I try to stay really grounded in the reality. The other thing that I'm doing a lot of is just vibe coding like every day to try to understand like what's possible, like how crazy
what
can you
tools
get.
Are you using for vibe coding?
I really like Claude Code. And I've been messing around with Gemini a little bit and Codex a little bit. I try all of the command line tools because they are quite good at managing their workflows. And I'm actually surprised that I like it. I was never a terminal-based programmer. Like I've always needed visual tools, but I think that they're good enough at structuring how they work that you can kind of talk to them like you're talking to an engineer. Like I have easily the 10,000 hours of talking to engineers.
Yeah.
And so the skill set that I've found most transferable from my life in Silicon Valley is that of talking to engineers and designers. Like I've spent, I don't know, I could go back and catalog it, but I've definitely spent more than 10,000 hours talking to engineers and designers. And so that skill set turns out to be incredibly transferable to these command line interface code tools like Claude Code.
To me, it seems like the main beneficiary of all these tools is the product manager. Like they are the ones, obviously everyone benefits, but the product manager is the one who can benefit the fastest.
Absolutely. And I think engineers, I was on I'm working on a prototype in our incubation studio at Offline right now. And I was on a call this morning, and the lead server engineer working on the project, he just described how, the thing that he made was so shockingly awesome to me that I was, my mouth was, my jaw was open on the floor. I'm like, this is so awesome. And he said, it's so fun being a developer now because I can just write the tests that I want a piece of code to accomplish, and then it will generate the rest. And so my developer, my like way of working a developer has changed so that I'm just writing these tests.
You're starting
and
with
then
the
I'm
end.
asking it to research. Yeah, I'm asking it to research, how do I accomplish this test? And he had this like really amazing set of 3 systems working together that probably would have taken a group of 3 to 5, like 6 months, a year ago to do. And we had it,
also is like
2 weeks.
A lot of historically I've worked with a lot of back-end engineers.
Yep.
Mostly that's where I've worked. And
Same.
And they're generally not that good on the front end stuff. And it's just a very different skill set. And now I've noticed so many of them now get to do the front end too, because they can use all these tools to do. So it's like they have this kind of creative side that they never had access to. And they're like way more dangerous in a good way. Like they can actually just do so much more stuff. Before they'd have to work like more collaboratively with others, where now it's like the one person, so you don't have this communication problem, just can get so much more done.
It's funny that I'm the opposite version of that engineer. So I've always been a product guy first, and then I started out building software in the design layer. Like I was in the 90s really into design tools and things like Dreamweaver and these sort of front end design tools.
You're starting to date yourself, Dave.
I know. And I really always came at it through the front end. And so I've never been a good back-end engineer. Like I always have relied on partnership and collaboration with people that are great at that. I think it's like how my mind works. Like I'm just not good at that type of engineering. But that's been really fun that I can do kind of the opposite. I can start with a front-end idea and then now build out the server and the database really, really easily using these tools and just test stuff out. It's cool. It's very creative and awesome, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. But that's the way that I try to stay, I guess, current. And I try to keep my mind from going to, I want this, because like I find that to be something that pushes me to think about the current investments that I'm doing in perhaps ways that are not productive for me.
World of DaaS isn't just a podcast. World of DaaS membership is a private, invite-only community for founders and executives of important data and AI businesses. It's a place for off-the-record, high-trust conversations focused on the biggest questions data leaders are facing. The community is about peer learning, curated intros, and access to private events. Everyone in the group is building or leading something meaningful in data. If that sounds like you, apply to join at worldofdaas.com. That's worldofdaas.com. And Offline is both a fun, but it's also a venture studio. It's like, I don't know, 80% fun and 20% studio, right? Or something.
Yeah.
So that's why
exactly
you're doing all the
split
vibe coding?
Yep. Yeah, I do vibe coding, but we've got the way we structure Offline is we've got a standard GP group of people that make investment decisions. We're out there doing your standard pre-seed, seed, investing. I've done now, over 1,000. I've also got the 10,000 hours there. I've done over 1,000 pre-seed and seed investments in my career.
Holy mackerel, that's crazy.
And so we do that. We're really good at it. I think we're best in class practice at that. I could talk about it all day, but I also enjoy building things, and we enjoy building things, and we enjoy helping other people build things and maybe think about the way they're building them differently. And so we also have an incubation studio. And
is it? Do you have like a fund structure and an incubation, and they're separate, or are they part of the same thing?
They're all part of the same fund. And the way we've structured it is, 80-20. 20% of our capital goes to the incubation practices. So, we run $100 million funds. And so 20% of that, minus the fees and whatnot, goes to running the studio. And then we have a team, Max Ventilla. I don't know if you know Max. He's been in the
Max
Valley forever. So Max leads our studio. And he runs that process with a group of people that many of them actually worked with him on Alt School, his big school project. Bart Minarasa.
I was an investor in Aardvark. That was
cool.
That really dates me. But that's
I
a
tell
great
everyone
company.
that Max is one of the greatest product guys in Silicon Valley.
Completely agree.
Aardvark is one of my favorite products of all time. And so the chance, he came to me a few years ago and was like, I want to start an incubator. And I said, well, we're already incubating things, but we haven't actually made it official. Like, we haven't made like a really structured process to that, but we want it to be a serious endeavor here at Offline. We don't want it to be just like a hobby that each GP does.
So when you incubate something, and so then it's the fund that owns the common stock in that company that you incubate or something.
Yep. Yeah, okay. we start out.
Not the GPs or whatever it is.
No.
Okay.
No, the fund does, and we start around 2 projects per week, and we kill around 2 projects a week, and we run a 9-phase funnel that's kind of like DARPA, where we give each project a really structured timeline and budget, and then we have a team. We have around.
And the budget is basically a certain number of hours of people or something.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have a team of around 70 people that work in a part-time way in our studio pool, and they will work on that timeline with that budget. They'll figure out if an idea is viable, and then if we decide that it's viable, then it moves on to being prototyped. If we think that the prototype is good and we think there's something here, then we go on and we start trying to figure out, like, what's the product that's likely going to find a market, right? And then we try to discover product market fit. Once we've discovered product market fit, that's when we actually start recruiting full-time teams to things. And so
just to like go into brass tacks. So obviously, like, let's say, I don't know what your fund is, but let's say it's a 2 and 20 fund or something like that.
Yeah.
So you've got the management fees, but you're saying separate from the management fees, you're taking actually a piece of the fund, 20% of that fund, and you are paying people, which could be people on your staff or part-time people, whatever, to create these companies.
Yep.
When you do that, if these companies are successful, your fund is getting equity in those companies, and that's how your LPs hopefully eventually make money back. And if one of them hits, they're going to make a massive amount of money.
Yeah, and we own 3x the amount of equity in things that come out the end of our studio funnel that we do in a typical seed investment. And so that's kind of our main pitch here, is that, we end up owning, instead of 10%, we own 33% of everything that comes out of our studio. And so if we do win, and we end up with much larger ownership, much bigger wins, right? And so, and that's partially, comes out of my experience doing seed investing in this market for the last, I've been doing this for just over 15 years now. There's a lot of competition to get that. I mean, I know you know this, Auren, like, I know you're new, you just started a new fund. Is it a year old, 2 years old?
It's like 7, but
I thought your new one was old. It was newer than that.
I think it depends what you say, but I think the current fund of the 7-year fund is about a 2.5-year-old fund.
Okay. Yeah. So 2.5 years.
Flex capital.
Yeah. Flex. So Flex, you're used to this, right? It's super hard to get the 10% that you want super early on. There's like a lot of competition. You're doing, I think, amazing job marketing, far better
by the
than
way,
us.
we usually get 1% to 2%.
Really?
Because we're usually, we're usually investing sometimes maybe up to 4%. We're investing 300 to 500K in a company.
Okay.
So we're doing high volume, low dollar in a company, because these are companies typically raising $3 million in a pre-seed or seed, and they don't have $2 million of allocation to give.
Totally.
It's very competitive to get in.
Yeah, and so we're up against that same thing, and we play the lead role in a lot of those rounds.
Okay.
And so typically in our normal practice, we're playing the lead role in those pre-seed and seed investments, and it's very competitive, right? And so, the question of how do you, get higher ownership in the things you have the most conviction in is one that I think anybody running a fund should be asking themselves. And so this is the way we've gone about solving for that, right? And I think on the one hand, and then on the other hand, we just love building, right? Like I'm a product guy at heart. I just love building things. And occasionally I'm out there, I'm talking to people. There's like an area where I'm like, wow, like there's nothing in this zone. Why not? Like we should try to build something over there, right? And so it's nice to be able to do that. And I've always wanted to have that function in the funds that I've worked in or around. And so we just wanted to build it into the fundamental DNA of what we're doing at Offline. And so that's what we've done.
And when you have a project, it's not like you quote unquote fund a company. You just pay people kind of directly out of the fund, and then if the company is successful, then you quote unquote fund it or something. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, it would take me a whole podcast to explain the model. But yeah, we have effectively a model that starts out as a pool of resources, and then as the ideas graduate to a level where they deserve to have a safe, then we fund a safe, and then as those safes pile up, then it turns into a traditional round. And by the time it's turning into a traditional round, like what we've incubated should be to you or anybody that's got great taste in pre-seed and seed investing, it should look and feel, and you should like think it's a great seed investment, and it should feel de-risked.
Find the founders, like how do you find these people? How do you recruit them, or how do you get these other people involved?
We view it as a core competency of our studio. And so we've got a great recruiting team that actually works across both our portfolio companies and our studio. Our head of talent, she's been working with Britt and I for, across the various of our companies for now over 15 years. And so she's super talented. She's got...
There's a bit of if you have two founders and you guys, it's like, hey, it's like a third ownership in the end, or how do you what's the pitch to them?
It's always custom. Yeah, it's just like every deal in the Valley. The circumstances are different. Sometimes the IP that's coming along has more value. Sometimes it has less value. Sometimes the founder is at a different needs to be a different caliber for this type of company. It's pretty custom, and we've actually found that as we've been building this out. We thought we were going to have one model. Of course, that was foolish. We maybe shouldn't have thought that, but we've kind of iterated along, and we iterate so much. We have so many iterations going on all of the time that we learn quite quickly. And so
I mean, really, what you guys are, I mean, you're also iterating on a business model, like the fund structure. One of the things that's interesting is like basically every venture fund is essentially structured the same way.
Yeah.
But every incubator that I've ever seen is a complete snowflake. I've never seen even two incubators that are structured even. So
totally.
You're creating a whole new business model.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why we look at it as like, every business I've ever run, I try to take 20% of our capital that we have to, allocate it to innovation, right? And so that's been our conversation and our goal with Offline is 80% of the time we can do world-class seed investing, and we will do that. We will go out and we will buy a portfolio of 20 to 25 companies every fund, and we'll do that. But for 20% of our capital, we do think there's an emergent new model here around studios. And I've also seen this in my career that when I'm building, I'm a much better investor.
Yeah.
And so some people just do that. They're like, oh, I'm gonna be a solo GP, and that's gonna be my side hobby along with the operating CEO role that I play, right? And there's a lot of that going on. And by the way, I did that for 5 years. I was, running Path, and I was also angel investing, and then that turned into I named my slow venturing or my angel investing practice Slow Ventures, and that turned into a fund.
Yeah.
And that was all while I was building Path. But I, this time around, like, this is my primary thing. This is the primary, organization that I'm running and help co-running. And so I also want to build, right?
Yeah,
and I actually think I can create good returns and higher ownership for my investors by building. And so that's what we're doing too.
And you people are now having like these personal relationships, truly personal relationships with AI. Like how do you think that evolves over time?
I've done a little bit of writing about this recently. I quit most social media now almost 1 year ago. I've been off of all Meta apps. I'm only on Twitter, largely because that's where the venture capital business happens in a lot of ways. And so
LinkedIn, I presume, right?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But what I guess you could call it pop mainstream social media, I am not on. Particularly the video-based version. I'm just
it's like crack cocaine.
I left. And the reason why is that I really, back to my history working on Path, we built Path around the idea that the human brain can only maintain 150 stable human relationships at a time. And there's no way to expand this. It's not like the brain's changing or anything. Like, just because there's mobile phones in everyone's pockets doesn't mean all of a sudden you can have break this biological limit.
And by the way, do you think that's true?
What?
Do you think Dunbar's number, all these things, do you think they're actually true?
Yes.
Like the number of do you think you personally can only track 50 things, 50 relationships going on?
Well, so he has several rings. So when we were doing the product, 150 is the maximum, famously, Gore, who makes Gore-Tex, only allowed 150 people per building, right? The next number is 50. So 50 is the number of people that you'd be legitimately sad that they died. Like, if you were sort of throwing a birthday party, you probably invite around 50 people. And then the next ring in is 15, which is, these are the people that you'd trust, that you'd go on a weekend with, that, you want to be around.
If there's something going on in their life, you literally will go fly to Dallas to deal with them. Yeah.
Yes. And then, and that's also, you're the grand master of dinner parties and small conversational parties, right? And 12 to 15 is kind of the ultimate size, right? You can't really have a single-threaded Jeffersonian conversation beyond 15 people. And even 15 is a lot.
Even 15 is really pushing it,
Right? So there's a natural limit there. 5 is the number where it's like, these are your ride or die, right? Like your best friends. And then interestingly, halfway through Path, Robin Dunbar said to me, I discovered a new ring. I said, oh, what is it? And he goes, there's one at 1.5. I said, what? Does that mean it's your wife and half of one of your friends? He's like, no, there's a gender difference. Men only have one best friend, and if they're married, it's their wife, and women have two. They have their husband and then one best girlfriend. And this is I found this in all my research. And so back to your question at hand, what do I think about AI relationships? Well, I think in social media, what happened was people started replacing slots in their 150 with parasocial relationships. Parasocial relationships are like the relationship everybody has with Taylor Swift. They think she's her friend.
Yeah.
They have this they feel like this person in social media is their friend. right?
Yeah.
And so I started to realize,
but we've had that for a while. I mean, I had parasocial relationship going on with Gandalf, right?
absolutely.
This like fictional character, and obviously so many people read the Bible, and we have parasocial relationships with biblical figures, Moses
absolutely.
and Jesus, and so this is not new.
No, what social media did was like dramatically and rapidly explode it. And I think the pandemic in particular accelerated it even more dramatically. And so I think when people talk about
you weren't seeing people also.
Yeah. I think when people are talking about the loneliness crisis, what they're actually talking about is that people have many of their 150 their slots in their head taken up by parasocial relationships. So when they go out into the real world, they're not just lonely, they're actually wondering where their friends are.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they're not real. They're just in your head.
Yeah.
And so when I started to realize this, I was like, oh man, I'm out. Like I want all of my energy going towards the people that I'm interacting with in person, that I'm, you and I keep in touch. Like I'm following up with you. Let's do the podcast. Like, like the people who you're proactively interacting with and the people who I'm seeing in my real life, having dinner with, like those are the people that should actually be filling my head with the social food that I should be eating.
Just to kind of double click on that, like it is much easier if those people are in close proximity to you, like geographically.
They should be.
Right?
And they should be, right?
Yeah.
Like oftentimes when I explain this to people, they're like, oh, I want to keep in touch with my friend that's from college. And I'm like, well, it's fine, but like you can text them if you want to catch up with them, right? Like just exposing your mind to this information diet that is full of people that aren't actually in your life is not actually healthy for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's my view on AI, which is like, is this going to radically accelerate this even more dramatically? Right. But I'm not sure. I have different worries actually about AI that I think are, if you look at what social networks did, they actually stopped us from socializing in person. If you talk to any college kid these days, they'll tell you like, I don't go to the bars anymore. Like your and I's experience of college is radically different than the way.
When I was in college, I went to bars to meet girls.
Yep.
That was my number one reason.
Absolutely. We all did.
There was no other. That was really the best way to do. I mean, I didn't know. This is the best way I could think of to go do it. Whereas, like, if I was in college today, I would use the apps. Like, that's just like a much more efficient way to meet a girl.
Yeah, but it turns out that it's not, right?
Okay,
like when you look at all
you
of
might be right. Yeah,
when you look at all the studies, there's tons of them. It's like Tinder optimizes for getting you to swipe, not actually connecting you to people. And and so it turns out the apps are actually high fructose corn syrup for this. And my joke lately has been just like after World War II and we all stopped working out, or we stopped using our bodies and started working in offices, the gymnasium became popular.
Yeah.
That we're probably going to need social gyms now because we've stopped socializing. And it's interesting. I actually saw a pitch last week for Duolingo for socializing. And it's coming from a kid that's in Gen Z. And he's just like, none of us were taught this. We all ended up in the pandemic. We don't know how to interact with not just girls, but like business, associates. Yep. And I'm like, wow, here we are, like having to flex that muscle and figure it out. And so my worry about AI is actually that we're offloading thinking, and that actually 10 years from now, it's going to be like, I don't know, you're going to go to a conference and you're going to be challenged to actually use your mind to think and write an essay and like do the things that we're all offloading into AI. In addition to the worries that, you've posed, like maybe actually
it is weird that, I work out with, go to the gym and work out. 100 years ago, no one did that. Yet they were probably like way better shape than I am in. And just because that was just like part of their day or something. And now like we have to go to the gym and artificially lift these big iron things for some reason.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm getting pitches for Duolingo for socializing, right? Like, or for Duolingo for social skills, right? Like this is the world that we're in, right? Like behind every human invention is an atrophied human faculty, right? And so, like that's what we're doing, right? Like we've kind of atrophied socializing thanks to social networks. And so are we atrophying thinking now?
I mean, there are books, there are all these fictional books about people whispering in your ear to tell you what to say to a girl to woo her or something like that, right? And that's been a trope for many years where we need help socializing.
Yeah. And look, don't get me wrong, like I helped build these things. I'm not anti, but I'm just kind of trying to be a realist about where are we now, right? And I think we're gaining AI is amazing. Like you can learn such incredible things, right? And to your point, like it's pretty amazing to be able to just say, hey, like I think one of the coolest use cases of AI is the one that you hear from people all the time where they're like, oh, I had this difficult relationship problem at work or in my life, and I didn't know what to say. And so I talked to AI and it helped me understand it. And, actually, I didn't think of it that way. And so I approached the conversation differently and it actually made the relationship better. Like, that's awesome. Like that use case is awesome.
We have I think a common friend who had a fifth grader who did this. And it was super helpful. I know she was having an issue with someone. She didn't know how to bring it up. And she kind of gameplayed it with ChatGPT and then figured it out herself and then had the conversation. And it actually went really well because these are hard conversations to have.
Wouldn't that have been awesome to have that in fifth grade, right? Like maybe we all would have been bullied less. I don't know.
I wouldn't have been mature enough in fifth grade to have even thought about it. So I doubt only a very, very mature fifth grader probably could do that.
And that's cool, right? So I don't know. We may end up with a bunch of positive, but like a bunch of thinking gyms in 10 years.
Totally.
Like,
I didn't think about the hardware stuff. I mean, there's like the glasses, the pins, some of these things kind of like the benefit is they kind of free us from the screen, like looking down at the screen. But there's, a little bit more of augmented reality that's happening. Like, where do you think that's going?
It's hard to tell. I thought, Casey Neistat had a great video about this last week where he showed the difference between Apple's thinking and Meta's thinking. Like Meta's got these like plastic sunglasses with cameras in them, and they're kind of janky and cheap. And then on the other hand, Apple has this like whatever $4,000 device that's like ski goggles, and they both kind of do the same thing. And so they're kind of going in the same direction from two wildly different angles, right? That you're going to have these cameras on you and this thing you can talk to, and
potentially a screen in your eye that give you some extra information.
And maybe that's right. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's cool. But like, do I want people, I was joking that do I want people to have deep fake eyes, which is eyes that are looking at you, but not actually looking at you, like, I don't know, right? Like, is that the right way? I was an investor in Humane. I actually thought that Imran had a lot of really good thinking. Their execution path didn't end up in the right place. A lot of people panned them for it. But in my view, like, at least they were trying, right?
Yeah,
like
these are really hard. It's really hard.
And who knows, like yesterday, OpenAI was doing a developer day and Johnny Ive was on stage and he basically said the same thing. He was like, yo, this is hard. We've got a family of things we're working on, but we're kind of not sure. Sam Altman's like, yep, it's going to be a while. I think that's actually true, right? And to your point earlier, like, we're probably just marching towards this, kind of incrementally, right? Like, I use the Meta Ray-Bans all the time. I love them. Like, I was
I love them too.
I went on a vacation with my wife and some friends in Europe this summer, and it was so awesome, like, to have those on, and it enables you to capture kind of a different part of the experience. It's not the photography that I love doing. Like, I still carry my camera to do the kind of photography that I love, but I really love that I have this new stream of videos in particular that those things can capture. I went on a
safari, and of course you have the camera, the Safari or something like that. But just like the Meta glasses, if you just have to like a super quick thing, there's no way to get your camera up, and even your phone, it would just take too long. It's so much easier to do it with the glasses, and in some ways allowed me to be more present too.
Yeah, and credit to them, right? Like they actually solved. I think they deserve huge credit for like a breakthrough in a new. And
It's a
my
great
sense is it was
product.
kind of an accident.
Yeah.
Like they were actually. It's like your classic story of innovation. They put something like the Apollo project's budget into the metaverse and VR, and it like that totally failed. But there was this one thing that was like all the numbers were hockey sticking, and it was these little plastic Ray-Ban glasses, right? And so they were like, oh, and to their credit, they just like doubled down on that, and they're like, oh, that's where all of our AI
Yeah.
metaverse stuff is going, right? Because it's
And I
clearly the
love
form
I
factor
mean,
that works,
I love
right?
the new ones where, the lenses change if you're indoors.
They're great.
Right. Because that's like, then it makes it now, then I can use it instead of my AirPods, right?
Yep.
Too. So now if I'm indoor, outdoor, I don't have to be like switching all the time and stuff. Or if I walk into a store from outdoors, I can keep my glasses on, and
Yep.
it's great. I mean, it's a
Yep.
great product.
And I
Yeah.
think, just like we've all,
By the way,
the
we're
old
like,
William,
speak of advertising, look, we are an advertisement right now
because
for
it's a
this
good
thing, right?
product.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
great
Yeah.
products
We're not
deserve to
getting
be talked
paid. No
about.
one, you and I are not getting paid for this, but
This is
we're an
like,
advertisement. Like, this is the type of advertisement is a good advertisement, right?
yeah, it's like focus on making a great product and they
Yeah,
sell themselves, right? And it's
totally.
like, and in this case, I think it's also the answer to your question, which is the famous William Gibson quote, the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed yet. Like that fact that all of the technologists are using are using glasses and loving it kind of, I think, actually says like, oh, this is the breakthrough use case. And yeah, not everybody's doing it yet, but I think you should expect to see like
Yeah.
a wild
I mean,
Cambrian
I would
explosion.
love, I mean, again, if it's light, the lightness is really important to me because I don't want this
Yep,
heavy thing on my nose.
totally.
But if it was light, it's light enough, and it's if I could have, if that new on screen, display in your right eye, I don't know if it's going to work that well, but assuming that it will get there over time, like to me, that would be great. It gives me a little heads up. It's a little map. If I'm biking right now, often I'm biking and like it's hard to look at my phone where I'm going. If that could tell me where to go better, or some of these, like, these would be really beneficial things. I know you're a big skier, so if it just like gave you a little bit better map
Totally.
of the trail of where to go and stuff like
There's
that,
great
like,
versions of
that'd be
this
amazing.
actually that have there've been lots of goggles over the years that have had electronics embedded in them. And almost all of them you're like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty great." But
Yeah.
then they have bad battery life and the displays don't work very good. So, yeah, I mean if you could have, you know, uh marginally new information like altitude, speed, like all kinds of things like that, what directions your friends are on the mountains,
Yeah.
like yeah, this is all like great stuff.
Anduril's building like these types of things. They're building helmets for the military. Essentially, this, right? They're building that. There's the helmet, so that everyone in the military needs a helmet anyway. So you can pack a little bit more. They're wearing armor, so you can put the battery packs in the armor, right? So you have a little bit more
Makes sense.
ways of moving it there. And then, of course, you've got the visor, and that gives you a little display of letting know what's going on. And of course, in your ears, the comms, so you can talk to other people. So it makes sense to have like an integrated system.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were also a sort of voice version of all of this, like some kind of thing you carry around. Like the other like clearly extremely valuable AI use case is that people are getting a lot of value out of note taking
Yeah.
and summarization and the ability to, like what was one of the hardest things to do in every organization, startup, company anyone's ever worked in? It's I just had a meeting. We talked about all of this. I'm trying to re-download it to you, that this
Yeah.
person that wasn't there. And like that is now just solved, right? And so I think what you're also seeing is like a lot of I'm an investor in this company called Rewind.
Yep.
And they, this is Dan, the
Yeah.
founder of
I tried
Optimizely.
to invest, but was not able to get in. So
Yeah, and he's done a lot of iteration on this. Like, how do you create the perfect memory? And they've created a actual hardware device that's good for this. And is the form factor perfect? I don't know, but there's like a lot of versions of this right now. And here's the other thing I know. And you drive a Tesla. We talked about it earlier.
yep.
Like, it's kind of awesome. Like, my kids love talking to Grok in the car. They especially love talking to the version of Grok that's like a surfer bro. Um, and I've actually found myself sometimes just talking to Grok about like the local news in my hometown, for example, in Montana, which is like very hard to get, actually.
I mean, I somehow I'm still talking, even though I'm in my test, I'm talking to ChatGPT on my phone. It's just easier. You like talking to Grok like right there because
you can
it's
hit
embedded in it.
Yeah. I'm surprised, right? And so that's all voice. And so I
like having the ChatGPT conversation. So I'm going to start doing the Grok ones too.
There might be a device that like fits into that zone that looks more like AirPods. You know, like everybody carries this little AirPods thing in their pocket now, right? Like maybe there's something like that, right? Like I could see a whole family of things in this. Which is why it's not surprising to me that ChatGPT and OpenAI are saying we're doing a family of things. There's like a few of these kind of use cases that seem clear that are going to be the focus for this.
Now, switching topics, I know or maybe even the same topic, I don't know. I know you're focused on really focused on curing depression, which is like a massively ambitious goal. Like, where do you think we are along that path?
Yeah, I started working in mental health in 2015, right after I sold Path. And I've put a lot of philanthropic work over the last decade into trying to move the ball forward on depression, mental health. I use a pretty aggressive phrasing of trying to find the cure to try to just like move through the world. I think that 10 years later, we have a much deeper understanding of the types of people that are affected by depression in its various forms. We understand lifestyle interventions that are deeply helpful. There's some people that need to exercise more. There's some people that if you tell them to get more exercise, it makes them more depressed, right? Yeah. So we're getting a lot better at helping people identify what type of person they are and then what kind of interventions that they need. We also understand much more deeply the social interventions that we need. So, some of the biggest studies in the world related to depression, at least in the United States, are ones where they look at large populations of people that consistently get depression. So, for example, doctors in training consistently get depression.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it turns out there's a linear relationship with the number of hours that you work and depression.
Really?
Yeah. And so it turns out the more you work, the more likely it is that it's going to happen. And so you have these things where it's like it's become very popular in Silicon Valley to like 996. We're going to work ourselves into the ground. Anybody who's on a professional sports team knows that if you push it too hard, you're not going to be able to perform on game day, right? And so there's like a lot of things like this where we're starting to understand the social.
I'm super skeptical of that. I'm super skeptical. All right, okay. Yeah. I'm super skeptical that if you're working on things you don't like, sure, you have a terrible boss and whatever. But if you're working on things with like good people and you're working on hard problems, like I feel like that's almost like the antidote to depression. It's like a shared mission that you have with shared colleagues. And you're in the trenches together.
Not if it cuts into the foundational things, which are nutrition, sleep, right? If you just think of it as a pure sliding scale between sleep and work, if your work cuts into sleep to the point where it damages your circadian rhythm, depression every time. And so that's the simplest way to think of it. Now there's a wiggles room, right, between how much work is too much work and creates too much stress that impacts your sleep.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
I mean, my guess is most people are on the extreme other side and they need to they need to find more meaning in work and need to work more rather than I'm sure there's some people who are on this, we might know some people that work too much and got to cut back. But I'm skeptical that there's that many of those people. I feel like there's way more of the other people that would benefit more from working more and having a more shared mission, and that would be an alleviator for stress.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no you have to have purpose. Again, that's another thing that we know. the other thing I'll say is that we've also found really great treatments that are breakthroughs that were kind of hidden from the world. We know that psychedelics, in particular ketamine, are incredibly powerful tools in the toolkit. They work for many, many people. That don't work for everyone, but for the people that they do work for, we have scientific studies that show 80% plus efficacy. It's so far above the traditional treatments that it's not even close. But
and on something like that, because it's like, it's a bit of a big intervention to go use these pharmacological things. Like, is it that kind of thing where, that's something to look at if the depression is very severe? I assume there's some gradation, and you've tried these 5 other things and it didn't really help you, type of thing.
Absolutely. And that's what you're typically seeing, right? You've got doctors that are out there with patients that have seen no remission in, I don't know, call it 5 years of psychotherapy combined with lifestyle interventions, and nothing worked, and they're still suicidally depressed.
And how big of an epidemic is it? Like, and is it getting worse in the US?
Yeah, it's getting worse. It's getting worse.
And is that because we're getting richer? Is that because of the social media thing? Is that
There's a lot of different theories. I mean, before social media, I think social media has perhaps accelerated it. I think we were already on our way. To 2030 has always been the number where depression would be the number one contributor to the burden of disease in the United States, like above cancer.
Whoa.
So it is the epidemic that it's number one. Like, we're already on the way. And a lot of people, like, these were numbers that were already, when I first started working this was the 2015 to 2020. That was the projection in that time zone. And then we had a pandemic, right? Which I don't think anyone disagrees that exacerbated the mental health crisis.
Like, there's some debate on things like marijuana, whether it's causing depression, it's accelerating it. There's some other people who think it's helpful to and I've seen a lot of different debates on this.
One. Yeah, I've researched it, talked to many of the scientists, invested around it. It's a difficult one. I actually
especially like these 18-year-olds, maybe inducing things like schizophrenia or some of these other things.
The science is 100% clear that you should not use cannabis under the age of 21. Really, like, the science is super clear. Now, is that actually a reality in the United States? Like, it seems like no. Kids just get it, but the science is. I mean, Andrew Huberman does an amazing episode on cannabis.
He does. Okay.
Yeah. If people want to get really into the science of cannabis and this question, I think his episode is fantastic. He's actually done a couple episodes. It's a difficult one. I've seen it really help people, particularly with anxiety. It can have an enormously positive effect. It doesn't appear to be something that you want to be on long term. But guess what? People are also on antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs for Prozac 10, 20, 30 years at a time. Yeah. And so it's hard to look at cannabis as a part of a mental health stack of medications and be like, oh, that's that much different than like taking SSRI for a long period of time. It's all kind of like, use this tool to get through to get yourself back to neutral, and then work on the lifestyle interventions that really take you to thriving, right? Like, it's really easy to point out the things that take you to thriving. It's, sleep, strength training, drinking a lot of water, healthy relationships, not drinking alcohol. Don't drink alcohol at all. If you do, drink it very carefully, and absolutely do not smoke. If you want to live a long, healthy life, right? And so these are like relatively simple things that have been proven by science. And you can get into Huberman's podcasts on this, and Brian Johnson's doing a lot of work on this right now, and many of the longevity scientists. But
one thing about SSRIs is, they make your synapses fire more. Yeah. And another thing that makes your synapses fire more is carbs. And so I just have like tons of donuts. Sugar. I eat tons of donuts, and it's just like makes my synapses fire, and I'm just like, it causes happiness.
Well, and look, I think the question you asked was really simple. Where are we on the path to the cure? We're not there. And, I think that everything you've mentioned and that we've talked about are all in the toolkit. But do we have a GLP-1 of depression? No, we don't.
Yeah.
And so we're still out there searching. And, the reality is we really don't understand the brain very well. Like, we don't know if it's a computer or an antenna. We don't know what it does. We know functionally when we look at it with an fMRI, we know a lot of things. We know a lot of things biologically, but like we still, humanity has a very loose understanding of the brain. And we still have a long way to go research-wise.
3 more quick questions. First, okay, you're co-hosting the More or Less podcast with your wife, Britt, and then Jessica and Sam Lessin. What have you learned from doing a podcast? Like, what advice do you have as a podcaster?
That I almost always am wrong about whether the episode was good or not.
Oh, interesting. So afterwards, you're like, oh, that was a crappy episode. And then it goes through the roof. And then the other was, oh, this was great. And no one liked it.
Never liked it.
Oh, interesting.
I have somewhat gotten better at it over time, but I learned that, I don't have a good radar for it. And the other thing is
that's just by number of views, essentially, or number of listens.
You can look at it by views or the amount of feedback you get, or listens, people,
I like this episode.
Yeah. I guess, looking at like primary metrics, which is, views and time, right? Like, did they make it all the way through? The ultimate metric of a podcast is not just a view, but like, did they make it all the way through?
Right. This is at the end of this podcast, so probably no one's listening at this point.
Yeah, if you are listening, I always say, send me a DM on Twitter. I love hearing from people.
DM me on Twitter or Hoffman.
If anything I said was interesting, like, let's keep the conversation going.
Totally. Okay, that's my dad will be DMing me. That'll be it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like, I think one of the hardest things about podcasting is you oftentimes don't know who's out there.
Yeah.
But I've also learned a lot about comedy and how to play different roles in groups, in particular in comedy groups. I play a role on the podcast, which is known as the straight man.
Yeah.
I'm the Seinfeld to Sam Lessin's Kramer.
Yeah.
And so being good at that and not competing for the bit is something that I've learned a lot about. I don't know that I'm necessarily even that good at it.
Costello, you're the Albert, and he's the Costello.
I don't know that I'm like that good at it, but I'm like getting better.
That makes sense based on your 2 personalities.
Yeah, that's like a thing I knew nothing about before starting doing this.
That's interesting. Okay, last 2 questions we ask all of our guests. What is a conspiracy theory you believe?
I'm really into the UFO question. And like, what are they? Are they all throughout history, in the history of all religions, there have been things in the sky, Ezekiel's chariots. In the Middle Ages, people were seeing ships in the sky. And then at the same time, our military seems to have, readings on radars of things in the sky. And so I'm really into the question. Like, I don't know whether that is an answer to your question. Do I believe in it? I believe in the phenomena. I believe people are experiencing this thing.
Yeah.
Whether or not they are flying metal objects from another galaxy, I don't know. Are they, something that we just don't understand? Is the world flat? I don't know. But that's one that I enjoy thinking about.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. All right, last question we ask all of our guests. What conventional wisdom or advice do you think is generally bad advice?
I already said it. I think that 996, sort of this notion that you should destroy yourself, live in a garage, eat ramen, not take care of your health, and have no social relationships, and you can still be a good entrepreneur is
why 996? Why is that true? Like 996 doesn't seem that crazy. Like,
no, it's not that crazy. It's funny.
Not that much, actually. Like,
I was jokingly
when you think about it, it's like, because a lot of people, when I was that age, I was doing 11, 11, 5, it's, whatever, or 9,
It's
5.
funny that you say that.
Yeah.
I was going to tweet like 996. Like if you Gen Z kids want to create trillion-dollar companies, you need to do what we did at Facebook, which was basically like 10, 12, 7 for several years, right?
Yeah.
And look, it almost killed most of those people.
You can go out afterwards. You can go to, if you go to bed by 1 or 2, you can get a decent sleep, right? You get the Sunday or Saturday off, and again, if you don't have kids, like I don't know, it doesn't seem like that crazy.
It's not that crazy. Yeah, if you're 24 and you don't have kids, work all the time. But the reason I point it out is take care of yourself. Like take care of your health. Like don't damage your mental health to the point where you're suicidally depressed. Don't damage your body to the point where it shuts down and you can't show up to work the next day, right? Like, I think I like to be a moderating voice on this because like I just compare it to sports or athletics. Like even just look at the trend in how musicians are managing their careers now. Like you look at people like, I don't know, I think Zach Brown's a really good role model. Like he on social media, Zach Brown Band, he's kind of a country rock star.
Okay.
On social media, he shows how he brings a gym trailer with him everywhere that he goes, and he treats what he's doing as a sport. And you look at Taylor Swift, for example, like she's now really talking about how she has to do training and, nutrition management, and she treats herself like an athlete, right? And I think if you're going to be a founder...
She is an athlete. I mean,
And being a founder is athletics, right? You have to treat yourself like an athlete. It means high performance, intense work, like, driving a hard culture of performance, but it doesn't mean destroying your mind and your body in service of it so that you can't do the job, right? And so I think that's like, to me... there's nuance in that advice that we should take more seriously.
I wish more of my founders were 996. I feel like so many of them are, 9 to 5 or something like that. And I mean, maybe not the founders, but people in tech.
Yeah,
like there's just
maybe you're right. Maybe that's where this is coming from, right? That maybe I'm missing something. Maybe the employees are a little bit too 9 to 5 out there.
Yeah,
that wasn't my experience with startups.
I think it's pretty rare for an employee at a company, even a tech company, to be working even 40 hours a week nowadays.
Really?
Yeah, I think very few people at Google work 40 hours a week. I would a real 40.
Really?
I would say they're working 25 to 35 hours. Yeah, I would say it's pretty rare to find anyone at Google pushing 40.
You're saying at the Meg 7.
Currently at Google.
I thought you meant at startups.
I believe at NVIDIA they're working at least a real 40, but I don't think at Google they're working a real 40.
Interesting.
I don't think at Meta most people are working a real 40. They might be clocking in, but they're spending, when they're there, they're spending time, on buying things or on social media or on TikTok or whatever. And of course, if they're working from home, I think it's very unlikely that they are. So I think it's actually like pretty, I could be wrong, but I don't, it's like, I don't have a camera on everyone, but my guess is just like the productivity is not high for that reason.
That's interesting. I thought initially you were saying that this was startups. And so,
and even in startups, my guess is like, the first 4 or 5 people are usually working, pretty hard, but at some point I feel like it just kind of goes, and it comes, I think they're working harder than they are at Google, but I wouldn't say they're working, as this is pretty rare to see like the average person working 60 hours a week. Like that'd be extremely rare to see.
I think it depends largely on the growth path. Like why was I working? I mean, I think I was easily working over 100 hours a week most of the time I was at Facebook.
Yeah.
And
but I think that's why.
But that was a hyper
that's why Facebook
situation.
was also successful.
Yeah, but I think it's like it pulls it out of you, right? Like you look at OpenAI right now, and I guarantee you that everyone over there is like working like this because
I think some people are. I think they have too many people, so I really doubt they are. I really do, because some of those people are just very academic and they're kind of spending time thinking about things. So I know enough people at OpenAI. I don't think they're working that many hours, but there are definitely some people working 80, 90 hours a week there. And obviously that's a very special company. But it's so big that it's just too hard to track at this point.
That's kind of why it's a hard question to think about, because, my experiences of, building a insanely big social network and then a pretty big social network. And anytime that you're dealing with a high growth scenario, it sort of forces you to work, because your number of customers is multiplying so fast, right? You go from tens of thousands of customers to hundreds of thousands to millions to tens of millions.
Also, it's exciting. So you want
in
to
like
work,
years, right? Yeah,
like,
totally. And the feedback coming in is from so many users, and so it just creates this crazy cycle. But different businesses that aren't doing that.
The alternative to working is watching a movie on Netflix, right? Or what's the alternative for many people, right? Playing video games, like
TikTok,
what are people
Instagram,
doing when they're
and
not
Fortnite.
working? Yeah, exactly. Like that's what they're doing when they're not working. So just like, what's the better alternative? For some people, the better alternative is Instagram and Fortnite, and some people the alternative is work. Like it's not like often they're like using that time to build deep and meaningful relationships. Some people are, but a lot of them are just like playing video games.
Yeah, fair.
This has been amazing. Thank you, Dave Morin, for joining us on World of DaaS. I follow you at Dave Morin on X, which is the only social media you're on. I definitely encourage our listeners to engage with you there. This has been a ton of fun. I knew this would be great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Always enjoy talking with you, and just means a lot.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to World of DaaS wherever you consume your podcasts, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and more. And please help us get discovered by leaving a review. And check out worldofdaas.com. That's worldofdaas.com. And of course, connect with me on Twitter at Auren. That's AUREN. Would absolutely love to hear from you.